Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Satellite House. This week, our guest is Alberto.
Howdy.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
So tell the audience just a little bit of introduction about yourself.
All right. Well, my name's Alberto. I'm from the Bay Area here. 21 years of age. Birthday's in June. Just a Latino aerospace engineer here at San Jose State.
Birthday in June. Are you a Gemini?
I am indeed a Gemini.
Dude,
Yes.
the worst zodiac sign, the devil of the zodiac.
That's what everybody tells me, but I feel like at least I'm nice.
He's very nice. He's like the opposite of a Gemini.
No, but see, the thing is that once you come to rely on him, that's when the second face comes out.
That is true.
Right? That's the point, right?
Oh.
Yeah. No, I think part of it, I'm not super into astrology, but I like keep abreast of it. I have a theory because I was born June 16th. My older brother, born a couple years before me, was born June 11th. So what I've noticed is that like whenever we play like video games or anything like Red Dead Redemption or something where it's got like a morale chart, you know, I would always tend towards like be the best guy in the game, be the good guy and everything. Meanwhile, my brother would be an absolute maniac. He would be a menace to society on the game. So I was always like, maybe we just kind of split the personalities on that one, you know?
Maybe that's fair. I do the same thing when I play like a role-playing game like Fallout 4 or something like that. I always choose like the paths that I think are the most moral, right? Like I always try to be lawful good.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm never the person who pursues chaotic evil, even though I'm like, oh, that would be so much fun. But I'm like, no, it's not satisfying to my inner morality.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like, you know, every now and then I just fuck around on like Red Dead Redemption or something, especially Red Dead Redemption. And yeah, I'll blow some shit up and get in some shootouts and shit. But then I always find myself feeling a little bit guilty after that. And I think that's just because I've had so many years of Catholic guilt just pressed onto me.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
You're so Catholic that you went as the fucking Pope for Halloween.
Oh yeah.
I'm not nearly as Catholic as people think. I just kind of find it funny to talk about because
Okay, so it's just like a meme.
Yeah, no, like don't get me wrong. I am religious. I still do consider myself a Catholic, quote unquote. But like, you would be hard pressed to find me in a church. And
So just like you don't take it to an extreme.
no, God no. Which is surprising though, considering my upbringing.
I think it's really funny because you do an excellent job of memeing that you take it really seriously.
Yeah, no.
I totally believed that it was a lot more important, like a huge fixture.
Wow, goddamn, I really sold it too much. Holy shit.
Speaking of your upbringing and stuff, I know that you're from Redwood City.
Yes.
Grew up there, born and raised.
Yes, I am. I am Redwood City, born and raised. Technically,
rich
I live.
people.
Whoa! Let me get
Clarify,
to it.
yeah.
For a while, I've been living in North Fair Oaks, it's like an unincorporated chunk in between Menlo Park and Redwood City. But for most of my life, I've gone to school in Redwood City. I was born still in Redwood City. All my friends live in Redwood City and stuff. So I feel like I always find myself spending more time in Redwood City. So I just say I'm from Redwood City.
So do you go up the peninsula a lot? Like, do you go and visit home often?
Honestly, ideally, I would. For previously when we were back in school and everything before quarantine and stuff, I would try to go home every 2 weeks. So I just go home, spend a weekend, just be with my dogs, my family, do some work, meet with some friends because I still have some very close friends who are around the area. So I just try and make as much time to see them as possible. I mean, sadly though, like these past 2 semesters, I've just been super busy. I've started working a second job down here. The coursework in my major is getting a lot more hard, and of course I'm on exec with you and Jay Kim.
Yeah.
And I like to at least take my responsibility as seriously as I can. I'll admit, every now and then I skip out just to spend extra time with my family because I don't really get a lot of time to go, be with them. But it's been getting a little more difficult just to go down and see my family.
But you know what? I think that that's very reasonable. In our fraternity, one of our values is putting your time where it belongs, and like your time definitely belongs for your family, and if you're not getting enough of that, the fraternity shouldn't take precedence over that, you know. Like that would be crazy to say, like, the hour that you want to go spend with your family, that you should spend it with us instead. Like, no, that's wild.
Yeah, no, but that's really one of the great things that I do love about our chapter, and I love about our fraternity, is how we're all frat guys, but we're not frat guys first. You know, we have other things that are as important to us, but for at least most of us, we still put the frat at a special, like, in a special point in our lives.
Yeah,
it's a special thing.
That we're not like all consumed by Greek life.
Yeah.
We're not a movie cliche stereotype. I think sometimes it would be fun to live that way for a day.
Absolutely, I agree.
But I think, you know, in reality, it's better that we're not. You know.
Yeah, I am not at all dissatisfied with my Greek experience. I feel like I've gotten a great experience out of it.
I feel like we get a good balance of like the traditional fraternity, but also that part where you said we can have a part where it's focused on us and our lives.
Yeah, I think so for sure. So I wanted to ask you, Alberto, because you were on the football team in high school.
Yes, I was.
How are they sort of like vaguely similar in culture to fraternities, or is it like really totally different? Right? Because I was never a person who was involved in sports at all, so I have no idea what this world really looks like. And in my mind, it sort of vaguely resembles a fraternity, but I don't really know if that's true or if that's just the way the movies make it, or, you know, like, I don't know.
There are definitely degrees to it. There's a lot of ways that it is like a fraternity. Like, really just depending on the history of your team, some will be more like a fraternity than others. Really, it just comes down to, like, what's the culture of the school like. So, for me, I went to Junipero Serra High School up in San Mateo. Same high school as Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady. So I played on their football team for 4 years, and Serra is definitely a sports school. Most definitely football, baseball, and basketball. Those were our big three, and I would argue that our primary biggest was football. We spent most of our money, most likely, on the football team. So it's a team that had a lot of history, a lot of kind of just regular jock history. And when I was on it, I joined my freshman year because I remember I walked into the cafeteria, and there was two tables. There was the band and the football team right next to them. And I was looking at it, and I remembered when I was a kid, I'd played football for a bit. I was terrible, hated it, stopped playing football. Got into high school, I was like, I always said I wanted to join the band, but I always knew that, like, I kind of wanted to try football again. So I went over there and I was like, you know what? This would probably be a good thing. Number one, it'd get me in shape. Number two, you know, I wanted to join the armed forces at the time. It'd be something that would kind of get me accustomed to a little bit of the mindset, you know, because there are some similarities, just teamwork and shit like that. So I wanted to be at least mentally prepared for it. So I decided to join the football team, and when I joined, there was 72 other kids that joined or something. It was one of the bigger classes of freshman football, but they have a whole like 2-week hell week that kind of just like, you know, weeds out a lot of the guys who just didn't want to play. And here's the thing: for such a like prestigious football team, it was no cut. It was no cut football team. If you stuck it out, you'd play. You know, you wouldn't play. You'd be on the team. So don't get me wrong. I am a trash football player. I am at best mediocre. I don't have a lot of talent for it. I just don't have the kind of the hand-eye connection for it. You know. But I love the sport. I absolutely love the sport.
Which position did you play?
I played offensive line, defensive line, and linebacker for a bit.
Cool.
So yeah, I was definitely in the trenches,
Offense
as
and
they'd say.
defense.
Yeah, I was primarily a defensive lineman, a nose tackle.
Yeah.
And then when I'd play offense, I'd usually play right tackle.
You were like the guy that takes them down.
I'm supposed to be. Actually, I might have gotten mine switched around. I play right guard. Sorry, right guard and nose guard. I was the guy who would just kind of get in the middle and try and take the shortest path to the quarterback and, cause as much chaos as I could at that point. And that's the thing. I thoroughly enjoyed being a defensive lineman because it was physical enough that I was getting a good workout and I had the right body type for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to think as hard as the other positions because I just don't have that football mind. So I could just really
you have one job.
I would see my hand signals, I'd get told my hand signals, and then bam, I just go play.
Yeah.
And if I get lucky, if I hit my timing right, I do okay. But more often than not, I'm just really good at just bringing down the line, just cause a pile, cause some traffic.
Nice.
So anyways, I ended up being one of the people who stuck it through the first, the Hell Week and everything. So I was on the freshman football team.
What is Hell Week?
It's just, conditioning. That's all it is. It's running, 2-a-day practices, run some more, bear crawls on hot ass turf, It's just really miserable. They take you run up and down hills and stuff. It's just made to kind of suck to get the people who really just don't want to put a good amount of effort into it, just get them out because it's not going to be fun for them. It's not going to be entertaining for them. It's just going to be tough. So you make it through that, you do your year on freshman football. If you're really good, you get called up. And my season on freshman football, it was, our varsity team had made it into the playoffs. And during the playoff run, something kind of weird had happened. I don't really remember the story. It's been a while. And our coach decided to forfeit a game. So, yeah, forfeit a playoff game.
Whoa.
So that got the whole, organization all kind of pissed off. And they had banned us from playoff football for 2 years or something. Or it was either 2 years or it was 4 years. So until I had graduated. And I was like, damn, that really sucks. If I wanted to play football, I'd at least want to have the shot to go for a ring. So we were all kind of bummed out about that. And we were like, what the hell? And, we go on JV. We have an okay JV year. It was pretty, just a pretty fun year, kind of developing, the fundamentals of football. Had a really interesting time with a kind of racist defensive line coach, but I'm not gonna go too
we don't have to
deep
go there.
into that.
Okay. There's racist people everywhere,
It was just my personal experience with him that just felt kind of weird. But anyways, next thing I know, I'm on the varsity football team.
Nice,
on my junior year. I just stuck it through, done my time, and I kept it on.
So real quick, 2 years, freshman year, sophomore year on the JV team.
Freshman year I was on the freshman team. Sophomore year I was JV. Junior year and senior year I was on varsity.
Got it.
So part of the reason is my brother had gone to the same high school 4 years before me, and he'd played football, and he'd played it all the way up to JV. And me and my brother have a very competitive relationship. Us both being the only boys in the family, and us both being born in June, we're kind of opposites in personality, like we sort of talked about earlier. So my parents would always compare me to my brother athletically and be like, "Why can't you be like your big brother?" Your brother's a great baseball player. He's a good football player. His teams did all this, but I was always, why don't you study like your brother? I was always the book smart one. He was the athletic one, is the best way to put it. And that's kind of how our parents would sort of pitch us against each other.
Right. But then you made the varsity team on the football.
Yeah. And I made that a little bit out of spite because in my head I was kind of like, well, he made it to JV. I'll make it to varsity just to make sure I notch this one up in the book. And I'm not going to lie. I do that with a lot of things. I'm very competitive with my siblings for no good reason.
Sibling rivalry.
Yeah. So anyways, I get onto varsity, and our head coach is kind of a little bit like a stereotypical, it's like a surfer and a Texas football head coach had a baby.
Wow,
and he was a short Irishman.
Interesting that's combo. Really weird.
He was a fascinating guy. He would get really angry and super mad, and he'd be yelling all the time. And then like an instant later, he'd be snapping jokes and just kind of being just a funny hard ass. And I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely adored the guy. The guy is a massive part of my life, Coach Patrick Walsh. He, like, I remember when I'd started conditioning specifically for varsity, and we had to go up to the local community college because they were changing out our new turf field. He was doing his normal, kind of hell shtick, the drill sergeant shtick that coaches do. Mm-hmm. And we were doing what was it? Up downs or something, where you jog in place, you hit the ground, do a push up, jump back up, all that shit. And he's walking around the middle and he goes, I love the smell of up downs in the morning. He's like, does anyone know what that movie's from? And I love my war movies. I know an Apocalypse Now reference when I see one. So I go, it's from Apocalypse Now. And he goes, good. Yeah. I like you. And I was like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, that's very interesting. A couple episodes we had, 2 episodes ago, we had a guy named Assad on. And he was a Marine he's a Marine veteran. And he's a student at San Jose State about to graduate. And he was comparing about the kind of stuff you just went through during your football training. The kind of hazing, if you can call it, just making you exercise a lot, do push-ups.
And he was talking about like bonding through shared pain.
Yeah.
Right? This suffering that you endure together really brings a group together.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It was really a wonderful thing to see because, I definitely did develop a really close bond with a lot of those guys. And even nowadays, I still regularly hang out with some of my old teammates.
Wow.
I regularly go out. Not as much as I would want to because I'm, a little busy and a little broke. So
is it kind of like a fraternity?
Yes. In a way, it's like a fraternity, and especially the football team that I was on. This was the top sport in the school. This was, the most historic. We had a lot of expectations on us. So, we were. If you were to consider the entirety of our division, which was Western Catholic Athletic League or something, we were one of the top houses, if you will. It would be us, and then probably one of our close rivals, St. Francis, would be considered the top dogs.
Yeah.
And geez, we would go at it. We would have some intense games, some really intense moments, and the preparation for those would be tough, and the coaches would be super serious and super intense during the weeks of during the week leading up to the game. And then on game day, when we'd be doing our walkthroughs, they'd be loose and funny, and they'd be trying to get us all to, calm down, know the plan, execute. And it's just it was really interesting to see how minds molded and became a team.
This is what I expect from Tom Brady's football team.
Yeah, no,
the high school he went to.
It's the GOAT. It's really something else. It
football
really
GOAT.
is.
Yeah. So then I know that you mentioned like a lot of connections and similarities with football and also the armed forces, and you wanted to go into the armed forces.
Yeah.
How did that kind of transition happen?
It was never really a transition. It was always kind of part of a long-term plan. When I was in the 2nd grade, I'd come home from school. My dad called me in the living room. He was like, "Hey, come watch this movie with me and your sister." And we were watching Armageddon. That 90s action flick, Bruce Willis, space shuttles, all that shit.
Saves the Earth.
Yeah.
Oh, that one.
So I saw that, and I was like, "Whoa, that's really cool." And I wanted to be a firefighter before that. So I was talking to my dad, and I was like, "Yo, Dad, what are those guys? What are they doing?" And he's like, "Yo, they're astronauts." And I was like, "I think I want to be an astronaut."
Yeah.
And the second I said that, my sister says, "No, don't do that. You're gonna die." And I was like, "Noted. All right, thank you." So anyways, I kind of got the idea into my head that I wanted to be an astronaut. And being in the 2nd grade, I went to school, and during the morning, my teacher was like, or my teacher was welcoming in for the day, and I was like, "Hey, miss, do you think it'd be possible if I could be like an astronaut or something?" She was like, "Yeah, absolutely. If you put your mind to it, if you work on it." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And she was like, "Here, I got some books here that, talk about space and shit like that, and rockets and stuff, and you can read through them if you want." So I started reading through them, and I was reading through one about the Saturn V, the Apollo program and the Saturn V rocket. And I remember for some reason as a kid, I really like visually attached to the image of the Saturn V's 3rd stage, which is what took the lander, the capsule to the moon and everything. And I was like, that's there's a beauty in that. There's a real beauty in that. And I started watching space shuttle launches and everything, and I became obsessed with the space shuttle. To me, it was like watching a piece of art fly through the sky. You know, it's the way everything maneuvered, the way everything worked in unison, the way the crews worked and everything. And then the one thing that I really connected with was, number one, I knew that Neil Armstrong was a pilot, and I was like, Neil Armstrong's a really cool guy. And I saw these, you'd see these shuttles flying, and you see that they have pilots. They have dudes who actually fly them. And I was like, that's insane. That's so cool. I want to be one of those guys. I want to fly the space shuttle.
It's really interesting. So it's I see a similarity with all of the aerospace guys in aerospace engineering majors in our fraternity. Is a lot of you share a kind of inspirational story from your childhood that inspired you to become an aerospace engineering major at San Jose State. Mm-hmm. I think for Tomo, for him, it was
flying back and forth to Japan
as a kid.
Every
he was
year.
seeing the planes. I'm sure you know because you're very good friends with him. And yours is just watching that movie with Armageddon.
Yeah, it's so stupid. It's the stupidest thing to ever base the entirety of your life upon. But here I am, years later. I'm an aerospace engineering student. I messed up in ROTC, but I'm going to try and give it a second chance with the officer training school with the Air Force. But here I am learning about rockets, learning how to build and fly those things that I watched, ages ago. And I know in the back of my mind that one of these days I'm just going to have to fly one of those things. I'm going to have to do it. I don't know how, I don't know where, but I'm going to have to do it one of these days.
So I have a kind of a question that sort of relates to that. Mm-hmm. Is in the future, we all know SpaceX is currently leading the race into outer space. Mm-hmm. Would you ever be interested in flying the starships between Earth and Mars?
That would be sick.
No question. No questions asked. I would absolutely love to fly that thing. I think that is one of the most fantastic rockets I have ever seen. The design of it, the concepts behind it. It's a little riskier than I would personally design a rocket like that, but it's an amazing design, and they're getting it to work.
I think it's got really, really poor radiation shielding. I think you're absolutely going to get fucking cancer flying that thing.
I would tend to agree with you. I definitely agree with you. That thing's radiation shielding concerns me. It's a lot of its digital features concern me. Me being someone who wants to be a pilot, I like my buttons, my switches, and my knobs. I like making sure that if the computer fucks up, at least there's something that I can play around with to think I'm making things better before I die.
You don't want like a fly-by-wire. You want actual hydraulic connections from your yoke to the control surfaces.
If I could get that, preferably, but I don't complain about fly-by-wire. So
I'm surprised because you're like, oh, I like my buttons and my knobs and everything physical, right? But you don't mind fly-by-wire?
No,
I think that's a little bit strange.
I don't mind it when it's properly redundant, and the redundancies I would like to see. Really, it's all just kind of in my taste. I would rather push a button and know that there's a direct connection being made than touch a screen and have the possibility for that screen to lag or something like that.
So you like the haptic feedback?
Yes, I like the haptic
feedback.
I like the haptic feedback. I like the idea that this is, it's completing a circuit versus it's completing a circuit through a screen. I don't know why. It feels more sure, in my head.
Okay. So you're fine with conventional electronics, just not digitally controlled electronics. You'd rather...
I like things in good measure,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Would you say that you are, as you got older, obviously you always wanted to fly, but have you gotten more into the design part of it, or is your still main passion just flying?
It's got to be flying, right?
If anything, both have really grown. I still have a very strong passion for flying. I definitely have a very strong passion to do that, but at the same time, I've grown a deep appreciation for the design. But the funny thing is that in my head, it's always kind of like, design it so you can fly it. That's what's in my head.
Fair enough. So your goal is, even if you design an entire aircraft from the ground up, your only goal was so that you could fly it at the end of the day.
Pretty much entirely. That would be, in all honesty, the entire reason I would ever want to go to Mars is, not to walk on Mars, see the beautiful vistas and all that stuff, it would be someone's got to land that goddamn thing, and that someone better be me, you know?
So, do you think that humans will ever have a permanent presence on Mars?
I sure as hell hope so. I see at least the solar system as it is right now as the next great frontier that should really be explored. Of course, we have a lot of problems here on Earth. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like a lot of people say, you know, why spend all this money going on this space mission if we can spend it for, you know, food security, for housing, for stuff like that, education. And that's a valid argument. There's nothing wrong with that argument. But I don't think science should be the one you're really taking your aim at. I think it should be stuff like defense, you know, like, you know, oil spending, stuff like that.
I think that's fair. I think, you know, they should, you know, where do they want to cut the funding from? You can go ahead and cut it from the IRS, right? Yeah. You can give them less resources, okay? They already take all my money, whether they need yours for, too.
I mean, they can scare up $40 billion for defense aid, but, you know, scaring up some money for education and you know, health and human services, that's a bit difficult, you know, can't be done. Don't get me wrong, big Ukrainian fan here, so God bless those guys, Jesus Christ.
Honestly, I think it's going to be a tremendous victory day when they do secure the right to their entire full sovereignty, including the Crimean Peninsula, which is part of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Is Ukraine... I think Ukraine's winning right now, from what I've been reading.
They're doing an excellent job at defending.
Yeah.
They're wearing down the Russians more than they're getting weared down.
But at the same time, you can never really count out the Russian military. The Russian military...
There's always more Russians.
Yeah, there's always more Russians. But Jesus Christ, the Ukrainians have been doing fantastic, and good luck to them. They got it.
It's going to be a long war.
It's going to be a long one. The 2020s to the 2030s are going to suck, J. Kim. They're going to be pretty goddamn bad.
Who do you think is going to be the first to have a permanent presence on the moon? Do you think... Because I feel like it's going to be the Chinese. I feel like the Chinese are going to set up the first moon base.
For real. Hot take. Though not really.
No, it's not really a hot take.
I would beg to differ somewhat. It's possible, and it could be doable, but for some things, expertise is needed. And the one great thing about, you know, a country like the United States is that if anyone's got the expertise to build a moon base, it's probably going to be us. You know,
that's right.
The Russians have great expertise in building space stations. They have great expertise in building reliable vehicles, but operating beyond low Earth orbit is a bit beyond them, and their funding situation is terrible. You know, they're probably going under. The Chinese, they have fantastic funding, a great engineering base pulled from the Soviets, and they have great programs to develop new technologies. But at the same time, they are brand new. They need to develop a lot more experience. Where they can do it, they can probably do it pretty damn quickly. I wouldn't be surprised. But at the end of the day, it's kind of the people with the experience and the people with the capabilities that you kind of stick with. So I think the U.S. might be able to do it, but we could very easily mess it up and let them do it
Here's
first.
a question. Will there be a space warfare
Absolutely.
in the future?
Yeah,
in the form of actual physical fighting?
Decades from now, yes. Now, no. Like, in the next 10 years, is it going to happen? I don't think so.
I beg to differ.
Yeah, I beg to
Wars.
differ. I'd agree with J. Kim on this one. It's definitely not a possibility that you can count out. They've already developed so much of the technology with it. And there's a technology we know. There's the technology that we don't know.
I don't know. I think it's very similar to the idea of, like, using nuclear weapons. I think everybody agrees that this is probably just a bad idea. Like, I don't think that any country on the planet is sufficiently insane enough to actually conduct space warfare at the present time.
I would really beg to differ.
In the future, I can see there being actors on the international stage that are crazy enough to use space warfare. I don't think Russia's insane enough. I think they already know that they're in a shitty economic position. And to pull some fucking, like, ridiculous fucking supervillain shit by like conducting space warfare right now, I don't think even Putin would be stupid enough to do that.
Well, let me get my take in on this. There's a reason why they would do it, though. Warfare, modern strategy, it's all rooted in the idea of getting as many advantages as you can over your enemy. And as we've developed as a civilization, that means usually getting the higher advantage, getting the high ground. You know, good old Star Wars, the high ground. That's a very true thing. You know, it's getting the high ground, controlling the logistics, controlling territory, all that stuff. There's a lot of things that fold into it. But for a country like the United States, what we've done is we've built such a strong system of communication, systems of information, systems of sensors that make wars harder for our enemies, because we can just see what they're doing. You know, it's not hard for us. We can do it easily. We've launched enough satellites. We've launched enough GPS. We have enough ships. We have enough planes. We have enough of everything to see a lot of stuff. So that fact in and of itself opens up the possibility for warfare, because there's a distinct disadvantage between us and them. What makes it worse is that there's not a lot of laws on the situation, you know, because no one's really wanted to put too much thought into it. The only laws really is just don't put weapons of mass destruction up there. That's the one that, you know, if they ever find you breaking that, they'll get you for that. But then you get into the definition of what's a weapon of mass destruction, you know? Is a spy satellite a weapon of mass destruction? Some people could say yes, some people could say no. There's a lot of factors that go into it, and because there's so many things, and because it's such a vulnerable thing and such an important thing, it wouldn't take a stretch of the imagination for someone to say, well, we can take that out first, make them hurt for a good amount of time, and then we can start going after more important things and doing more dangerous things. And then you get a spiral, you know?
What the heck is a spiral?
A pattern of like a sequence of events that encourages the same events to happen, you know?
Ooh, I'm really
Just things getting worse and
I'm
worse.
really freaking blasted right now. Can we take a quick break?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, let's do a quick break. And we're back. We were talking about the podcast.
Yes. So
During the break.
For those of you who don't know, Alberto's an active listener. Is it interesting? Like, could you like call it and be like, long time listener, first time guest?
We're breaking the fourth wall right now.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if the future Alberto listens to this, we're breaking the fourth wall because we're talking to you right now.
That's true.
Talking directly to my future self, that asshole.
Man, I'm sure he's gonna appreciate that. Like, there's like do you believe in a multiverse?
Oh.
Great question.
I have a very complicated history with the study of the space-time continuum. For background, my favorite movies are Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3. I'm a huge Back to the Future
Even the
fan.
third one? Jesus,
Even the third one.
That
It's
one
not
was
the strongest.
terrible.
In all honesty, I would defend the third one more than I'd defend the second one. I'm not a big fan of the second one. That's my personal opinion.
Okay.
I like the third one. It's a little campy, but I'm a big Back to the Future fan, and I've been obsessed with the concept of time travel. It's so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Just stories of, you know, I'm a guy who I love to read alternate histories.
Oh, I love alternate history.
Mainly alternate histories about like different space programs, but that's just the nerd in me, you know?
Okay.
But I love my good, you know, alternate histories. What happened if this war went this way and this stuff. I genuinely love that stuff.
I love a good, like, what if Britain never lost America, like, alt history. I think that's a really fascinating, like...
I'm always the you know, what if the Axis won kind of guys. Those stories just like scare the shit out of me. So I'm like, geez.
I think another like more some like other interesting ones are like, what if Russia won World War One, and like the world was just generally more Russian. Like it's really weird, those stories. Like, what if the Aztecs beat the Spanish? Like that's a really strange. You know, like we think it's really wacky because we can't imagine it. You know, like,
yeah, it's changing all of history, and it's just what it is to me. It's glimpses into ideas. You know, ideas of what could happen if something goes differently. Because while it hasn't happened in the past, in our past, you can never know what happens in the future. You could always get a lesson from a made up hypothetical. But getting back on the topic, just kind of that mentality in me. I've always really been interested in just the concept of time travel. You know, the the control of the space-time continuum, using it for faster than light travel is one possibility, but of course time travel is just fascinating. It's interesting, going to the future, going to the past, all that shit. And I've acquired like a really scientific taste to time travel. Like I like my stories to be firm in their math and their science.
So you want them to be as realistic as possible,
I
making as
love
few leaps of like disbelief as possible.
Yeah, I'll allow some things to be like, okay, maybe that's just beyond me at the time, but I like to be like, at least I, a layman in physics, can get where this can come from, part of me would say I'd probably love to be a physicist, but I'm just not that good at math to do it.
That's fair.
I'm only good enough to be an engineer.
Shout out to our one physics major.
Yeah, God bless those physics majors. Those guys do a great job.
I think he's, oh man, he must be really smart. Like
Shay's a smart guy.
He must be incredibly smart. Like,
yeah, props to him. I deeply respect physicists because I just find that field so interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I used to want to be an astrophysicist when I was a child.
100% went through that phase too.
And I was like, oh, I really want to do this. And then I really found out what it took, and I was like, oh, hell no.
Yeah, no.
To the absolutely fucking not. Like,
why not?
It's so much math. It's so ridiculous math.
It's ungodly amounts of math. Like, imagine taking calculus 4 in high school.
Yeah.
And still, like, you're nowhere near what kind of math you're going to need. Like, you may as well just be a math major. Like, it's basically, that's essentially what it is.
For a brief moment, I wanted to study astrodynamics because I was like, hey, that's the study of how you get a spaceship from one planet to another. Now I'm doing vector dynamics in engineering, and I hate that class. I love the professor. She's one of the best professors I've ever had, but I just don't have the mind for vector dynamics, so I could never do astrodynamics, and I could never do physics. I'm an engineer through and through.
What I think is a really fascinating subject is like exobiology.
Oh.
Like what would life be like on other planets? Like hypothetically, given their atmospheres or given the spectrum of light that reaches the surface or the temperature or what the gravity is like. I think it's really fascinating to speculate what creatures on other planets would be like given their conditions instead of ours. Like, how would evolution have affected them?
Yeah, I do really enjoy that. It's a very interesting field, just considering, for me, it's more just considering like, what's the difference in cultures? What's the difference in societies, strategies, stuff like that. I like that aspect of it more than I care for like the biological side of it. I'm just like, the cultural side is the interesting thing for me.
I think that would be really fascinating, but I also think that people overestimate the chance of there being a sentient civilization, and people underestimate the possibility of there being something that resembles animal life on Earth. I think it's far, in a way, more likely that there's just like dogs, but from space, than that there's like a whole race of humanoid type creatures.
Well, there's actually a theory that I've heard about that it's kind of become what I sort of believe in when it comes to like aliens and shit. It's this idea of, I think what it's called is like 0, 1, or none. So the most likely explanations are there are 0 alien civilizations, which means that we shouldn't be here. So we know that's not true, so we know that's unlikely. The other possibility is that there's only one civilization, humans. We're the only civilization. That's it, plain and simple. We are alone out there in the universe. But the only other viable explanation, 0, 1, or none. I think I misspoke that. It's 1, none, or infinite, something like that. So what it says is, since we know there are no alien civilizations, we can cross that off the list. We know that we're the only ones here so far. That's one of the options. Or, because we know there can't be none since we're here, there has to be at least an infinite amount because we're in an infinite universe, So really what it is I think it's just a question of distance. It's a question of time. We really don't know what's out there, but we're in an infinite universe. It's a lot bigger than we think.
I think
A
aliens
lot of different
exist.
stars blasting off. You can never know what chemical reactions happen in some place, and next thing you know, you have a civilization. Happened here. It could happen anywhere.
I think it's I think aliens definitely do exist, but I think like I don't know, like I said earlier, I think the idea of them being sentient and having like real civilizations, things that we would call civilization, maybe that's less likely.
Who knows?
Like,
it also comes down to who are we to define what a civilization is, you know?
I mean,
That's true.
I think that's a very progressive way of thinking, because you're basically saying, oh, animals can have civilization, we just don't view it that way.
Absolutely.
Plants can have civilization, and we just don't think of it that way. Like,
I would say, yeah, there's a lot of examples of that. You know, termite communities, ant communities,
Bees.
the bees, absolutely. The community of trees that grow up around like fallen redwood trees and stuff. There's plenty of examples of things that could be considered communities and civilizations, but it would just be impossible for us to think about them in that way because we're just not built that way.
so do you think that humans expanding into space is a good idea, or do you think that in a way it's like when I say in space, I don't just mean like in our solar system. I mean like expanding to alien planets that have other life. Do you think that would be wrong of us? Do you think it would be sort of like a space colonialism?
No. Here's the thing. That's just kind of inherently who we are. We're exploring people. We're curious people. You know, that's it. We're just curious. And we've become so curious to a degree that we're just developing these fantastic technologies and stuff like that. And it's a nature that we can't help. You know, that's just who we are. The counterpoint of it, though, is that on top of being curious, we're also greedy and we're also violent. You know, we're a complicated and imperfect species. There's no really going about it. But that doesn't mean we're any less worthy to explore, because maybe we might meet the right species that convinces us otherwise, or we might see the right things that convinces us otherwise. Or
You're talking about collective humanity finding its mate, like
no, just finding its purpose, really.
it's like when one civilization meets the other right civilization, then they get married.
Distinct possibility. That's a distinct possibility, you know. But really, what I mean is just finding the things that are out there that make us decide that, hey, maybe we can be a little bit better. What I think it's going to be, it's really just us finding the resources to be like, hey, maybe we don't have to beat up on the entire African continent to get all our rare earth metals. Maybe we can just get this, you know, asteroid over here that's got plenty of them, and we don't have to use slave labor, you know? I think that's something that could be very doable, and that would be good for humanity as a whole.
So do you think that fully automated luxury space communism could ever be a thing? Like, is this something that you like? Could we live in Star Trek universe? Is that something that you see as potentially possible?
I mean, shit, I wouldn't say it's impossible. You never really know. There's enough resources out there. I'm sure we could find enough planets and get enough smart people to build some fascinating things that really do make this kind of an issue of the past. You know, I just think we're smart enough to do it. We're a fascinating species. Yeah, I think something like that could happen. Call it space communism or whatever you want. I'm a goddamn believer of the free market.
I totally believe that.
Yeah, I don't know. I was called a democratic socialist a while back, and I'm still very confused about the whole thing.
There's nothing democratic about it.
I'm so confused. But you know, yeah, I think it's possible. I think space really opens up a lot of different possibilities for civilization as a whole. Mm-hmm.
What do you think about like AI? Like, do you think that like sentient AI is a horrible idea?
We're getting
I
deep
think
here
it's a
tonight.
terrible idea.
We're getting this conversation.
Yeah, well, you can kind of base it off of my opinion on what I was talking about earlier with the haptic senses and stuff like that. I'd like that to apply to consciousnesses too. I'd like to at least know that that my consciousness is homegrown and operated. Not to say that AI has no place. We really should.
But like
really
weak
try our
AI,
hardest.
there's
We should try our
difference.
hardest to be
Like,
in
You're not a
control of
Blade
that.
Runner.
No, God,
no artificial sentience.
Because like,
I think that's where I would draw the line, right? It's
number
like
one-
nothing that's going to realize that it's alive and be like, "Holy shit, you guys brought me to life, and all I do is suffer."
Yeah,
Like, now
that's
I'm
a
gonna
terrible
kill you
fucking
all. You
burden
know,
to
like,
bring.
no thanks. I think that
was
sounds
not
like a
supposed
horrible
to be born.
idea.
My parents were on birth control and shit. I was not supposed to be born. I understand AI. They don't want to be here. Neither do I. So fuck that noise. But yeah, that's just kind of a bad idea because you don't want someone else thinking like you're smarter than the whole civilization, you know? That just doesn't sound like a good mix. Every time that's happened, some assholes come around and fucked up.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, robots, but you don't got my love right now.
Yeah, I think robots are fine, just as long as they're not sentient and they all they do is just mimic sentience.
Yeah, just please don't kill me.
Right? I'm like, I don't want you to actually know, right? I want your brain to process what my face looks like and go, oh, I remember that's my owner. But like, I don't want you to actually understand what it means that I own you.
Yeah,
Like, I don't want that. That's not a good idea,
terrifying.
robots.
AI is
Please.
horrifying to me. It would be great for some things, like
Like
handling
cleaning-
resources, stuff like that. But
I think that AI should be like the working force, while humans just become the force that's for like what humans do best: creativity, making art.
So you want to have a poem-based
Exploration.
economy?
What is that?
A poem-based economy. You want
real
like
commune.
the economies of poems, right? You just like that's you write a poem and that's money.
Or like maybe like making a podcast. Okay.
yeah, doing whatever you want. I mean, could happen. You never know.
But you want
I
to
like
be,
to work. I don't know.
You want to be the guy that pilots the space.
He just wants to
rockets.
drive a space truck. That's
You're
all it is.
goddamn right.
Mars.
I'm space trucking 24/7.
I could just see this man on
That's
like a
awesome.
long haul route, and there's like a little small spaceship next to him, and there's like a little kid looking out the window, and he pulls the imaginary honking chain, and Alberto's just in this big cargo spaceship, and he just pulls that shit, and it's just like
I love it. That'd be so fun. Yeah.
in his Pope outfit.
Oh god,
He's
that
dressed
Pope
as
fit,
the
that was
Pope.
fantastic. Chef's kiss. Great Halloween. I had so much fun.
Ooh.
he's just wearing a Pope outfit. Space truck.
If my grandma saw it, she'd beat the shit out of me. Oh my god.
Wait, we should talk about recruitment.
Okay.
I have a summer internship this summer, HR internship this summer. I'm gonna be recruiting people, but you are the vice archon of our fraternity, and you're in charge of our recruitment. So, what are some like recruitment tips? Because I believe that recruitment is a skill that everyone can benefit from.
I would agree. Knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to convince people, it's a very important skill to have. Well, it really depends on what field you're in. Some people just don't need to do that, but it's useful and it's important. So just the idea of getting people to see your image really is what it is. Getting people to see what you see is very important. And for recruitment, here's the thing. I'm not the most extroverted person. I'm at a weird crossroads where I genuinely enjoy talking to people. I enjoy having fun conversations. I enjoy having interesting conversations, but I just have a lot of difficulty breaking into conversations because I tend to be very polite. I tend to be very deferential to people that I just meet because I was always just taught, not to offend people, just be a nice guy. And sometimes I feel like I do take that a little farther than usual. I can be a lot more loose and stuff, but I don't know, it's just kind of the way I was raised. So I just have difficulty kind of breaking into the conversations. But
I can really relate to that.
Yeah.
I think like I'm definitely a sort of person who like Do I like talking to people? Yes. But do I want to meet new people? No. Once I'm actually talking to them, will I like it? Probably.
Yeah.
But do I want to like introduce myself and be like, hey, let's talk? Like,
God,
hell no. You know, like I don't want to do that at all.
Yeah.
I want other people to approach me and talk to me, and then I'll start talking to them back. Like, instead
Well,
of
you're not an icebreaker.
No, I can't. I can't do it. Like,
I agree.
and it honestly, it's a problem because it extends even into like my dating life. Like, I'll never be the person to send the message first. Like, I fully don't want to reach out to anybody on Grindr or Tinder or like in real life or in a gay club. Like, nothing. I'll be like, no, I'm not. I'll never see a hot guy and be like, let me go talk to him. I'll be like, please come and talk to me.
For a long time, I really did fall into the same category. I really do have to like force myself to go out and introduce myself to people. But I mean, I found that when I've done so, it's gone okay, at least. No terrible first interactions except for a couple, but you know, just happens. I should be more confident, essentially. So yeah, it's recruitment is a very interesting thing for a person like me to do. But the one thing that I can always count on is that I enjoy being around the brothers, and because I enjoy being around the brothers, I'm a lot more relaxed and I'm a lot more comfortable. And because I'm feeling more at home, I can be more of myself and I can be more bolder, you know? I can
we bring you the comfort that you need to be able to act natural.
Yeah, it's either that or it's me thinking like, I gotta set an example here, you know, I gotta be the example for what I want my guys to be doing. So I at least got to go out and try and make the effort to show a good example. So I that's when I force myself to be more outgoing, to be more extroverted, and to make those conversations. And works sometimes, doesn't work other times, but you know, it's probably better. I should do it more.
Cool. I think recruitment is like one of the hardest things for me to do. Like, I find it really, really hard. What would you say is like the key to being that enticing?
I think like for recruitment, it's kind of like building a relationship with anybody. It's like you talk to them, you know, you make sure they come out to the events, you know. You be a friend. You be very friendly to them and encourage them to come out. You get their phone number when you recruit on tabling, and you just text them the events and keep reminding them.
Yeah, you know, really, for me, it's a lot of just play the role, you know, do the job. I think about recruitment. I think of like that one dude from Animal House who was walking around, you know, whatever his name was, like, hey, how you doing, recruitment chair? I think about that shit, and I'm like, that would probably work. You should probably try and do something a little bit like that. So that's how I kind of go about it. Just play the part, do the role.
You just say like, you text them, hey, we're having free burgers tonight, free dinner with the guys.
I don't know. I feel like I'm always the sort of person who like people have told me that I look very unapproachable, like when they first meet me. I remember I was talking to, I think it was you, Jason. I was talking to somebody about like how do I appear to like to the associate members, and somebody was like, you're really unapproachable. Like, I feel like when I saw you, I was like nervous, you know. And I thought that's really interesting because I guarantee if somebody actually just approaches me, I'll be really nice to them. I just look like I would be super mean to them. I just look like I would rip into everybody. But like, and then like some people really look, and I get it though. You know, like it's not like I don't understand it, because I see certain people and I'm like, oh, he's safe to talk to. Right, like if I saw Matthias anywhere, I'd be like, "Oh, I could talk to him. That's fine."
He'll be an easy person to talk to. Yeah.
I'm like, whereas like if I saw if I saw Marco somewhere, I would be like, "No,
Marco would be
hell
intimidating,
to the no." I would be like, "Nope, I'm not talking to him. That's not happening."
Alberto's a approachable guy. He's a friendly guy.
Yeah, I think you're very approachable. Like, you're definitely more approachable than me, that's for sure.
You're very approachable. Well, like, I remember, like, the first time I met you, it was the Wings Night, one of the Rush events. And I don't know, like, you were leading, like, the poker game. That was really cool.
I remember the burger night when you made all the burgers.
Oh,
that was pretty nice.
that was
A lot of burgers.
That was a lot of cooking for you to do.
I love grilling. I absolutely love grilling. It was no problem for me.
Are you
I'd do it
one
again.
of those? Are you one of those dads who like are you gonna get like a smoker?
Absolutely, I will get a
Dad
smoker. I will get the pellets and everything. I'll go really into. One of these days, I'm going to be really deep into barbecue. You guys will hear about me like 40 years down the line.
I can't wait because you know what that means. That like 20 years from now, when we have like a frat reunion, I know who's bringing good food.
Absolutely,
Right?
yes.
I'll be like, I'll be like, everybody will be like, where should we have it? And I'll be like, Alberto's house. And they'll be like, why? And I'll be like, because he's gonna make good barbecue.
just thought
He's got 4 smokers
idea.
and just bought 16 briskets. You know.
I just thought of a business idea. It's gonna be Alberto's BBQ, and it's gonna be like a space-themed barbecue.
That's kind of
Go
weird.
great
though.
in Texas. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would go. That would
Texas
do
and
great
Florida,
in
they'd love
Houston. Houston would love that shit.
Yeah.
A space-themed barbecue restaurant. Perfect idea to open up in Houston. They would love it.
With your own secret recipes.
See, yeah, I'd have to develop those. It's gonna take a
You
bit.
just-
You can have all the cheesy names with like space-themed item menus.
Oh God,
SpaceX
I would-
ribs.
I would come up with the worst puns. They'd just be terrible.
I can't. I would love that.
Elon's
Honestly.
tri-tip. Elon's
What's
prime rib.
what's like a like I don't know
Falcon 9.
triple thrusters, and that'll be the tri-tip, like tri thruster or something. I don't know. Like doesn't the Endeavor have 3 engines on its back?
Yeah,
Like
all space shuttles got 3.
yeah.
Yeah, there's something you can come up with for that.
Okay.
What do you think about the Buran, the Russian
Ooh.
space shuttle?
Is that new? Hold
That's
on.
a
time out.
No,
really
it's old.
niche
This is
thing to
old.
bring up. Oh my God. Wow, no one asked me about this. It's pretty goddamn amazing, but God, what a waste of money. Don't get me wrong, it's more capable than the space shuttle. It's it can take up a bigger payload, it can land autonomously, it can do all this and that, but what's the point of having that if you're just not gonna fly the goddamn thing? Like, at least our
To say
shuttles
that you
flew.
beat the West, right? To say we have a better space shuttle than the
Yeah,
West.
but you got to get people to remember that you beat the West. How many people can you go up to? You can go up to someone and be like, "Hey, do you know what this is?" Show them a picture of the space shuttle. They'll know what a space shuttle is. Oh, shit, it's in front of the camera.
That's true, because if you show them a picture of the Buran, they'll say, "Oh, that's
think
the
it's a
space
space
shuttle."
shuttle, yeah.
Like, that's the American one.
Like they lost the marketing on that one.
Yeah, they really
great.
did.
It was a great ship, a fantastic piece of engineering, but
They have that's fair. It's interesting. They only have really like one memorable spacecraft, and that's Sputnik. Is like the only.
yeah, they got the Sputnik, they got the R7 rocket, and they got the Soyuz. That's about
They
it.
have like the Mir space station.
Yeah.
Like other than that, like does anybody really sit there and think about Russian rockets? Like
Probably not. I'm probably the one nerd who's out here reading about them.
like
yeah.
I think most people are interested in like I personally am most interested in like private rockets. I think that's really wild.
They're pretty goddamn cool.
Like again, I think they're all. Do they do what they say on the tin? Yes, but do they do all the things that the NASA rockets do? No. That
True.
You're
Fair.
absolutely gonna get fucking radiation poisoning in the Starship. Like on your way to Mars, by the time that you get there, you're gonna have like a 50% higher risk of cancer. Just because they have like no radiation shielding on that thing at all.
Yeah, you're probably right, but you know what? That's a problem for future me. He'll worry about it then. 21
I don't know.
year old me.
Maybe you can advise Elon Musk and be like, you should really.
He is going to get an earful of me. Do I think a single starship could go all the way to Mars? Fuck no, that's stupid. Dock it to something else. Give it a radiation shielding. Then you can go.
But they were gonna. They aren't sending it straight to Mars. The way that it's gonna work is that they're gonna send one up to orbit.
Oh,
And then the other one's going to come up there and its payload is going to be fuel, and they're going to refuel the first one, and then from orbit, then they launch it to Mars.
And yeah, that's an okay idea, but you can do better than that.
I think, see, to me, what the smart way to get to Mars is to go to the moon first, right? So we set up a permanent base on the moon that manufactures rocket fuel and rockets, and then that way, even if you have to fly the rocket from Earth to the moon first, you don't have to fucking take the fuel with you. It's already there. And then you just refuel from there, and then you go. Because the gravity is also a lot less, so your escape velocity doesn't have to be as high, so it takes less fuel to begin with to launch the rocket from the moon.
Yeah, so thankfully you brought this up. This is something I've absolutely put a lot of thought into. Me wanting to do this and all. My ideal sort of infrastructure would be this. You launch just a crew off of Earth. You get them to some sort of starship that can get them to the moon, get them to whatever moon base we have around there. What you have pre-positioned there is you have pre-positioned a ship and a starship. 2 separate ships. But what they do is the starship docks with the main ship, the transfer ship, and whatever. And this transfer ship has your life support. It's got your radiation shielding. It's got your, artificial gravity, all that stuff. Centrifugal artificial gravity. It's got engines that are more efficient. It's got better power systems. It's got everything. It's pre-built, pre-launched out there. Because we know we can build stuff out there. So you send a starship to it. You make sure the starship's fueled and everything. You get the fuel from the moon. But what that starship is that starship is your lander when you get to Mars. You take that whole transfer ship, you take the lander, you fire it from the moon, you get to Mars. With certain engines, you can get there fast. You can get there in 90 days, 3 months, something like that. There's this one engine called Vasmir or something, which was developed by this astronaut, Franklin Chang Diaz, genius astronaut, flew in all space shuttles, 7 space shuttle missions. This engine can get you to Mars in 90 days, There's a lot more impressive technologies out there that can be developed. And I say you take this technology, you take that lander that you have docked, that you launch from Earth from, you land that on Mars, and what you go to is you go to a pre-positioned other lander. That other lander was there 2 years in advance. It's already fueling up using, the resources that they have on Mars, using chemical reactions and stuff. And when you're done with your mission, you get into that thing, you get into the second lander, you launch it, you fly back to your ship, you fly back to Earth. That lander that you just, that you came in, that stays there, refuels, you can use it again down the line. And then you can send other landers to other places around
so
Mars.
A lot of this is going to have to be automated.
Wow.
It's going to take a lot of robotic crews are going to land far before human crews.
Absolutely. That's the only way you can do a Mars mission nowadays.
What is our mission nowadays actually, though? Like...
Hope and pray?
Honestly, I think the MO for most space companies and agencies in general is commercial satellites. I think that's what most space agencies are kind of focusing on, is just making things in LEO really affordable, putting a lot of communications dishes, replacing old communications craft and shit like that.
I thought we were going back to the moon.
We are, and
that's going back to the moon.
Well, that's the thing with
Artemis.
That's the thing with something like Starship. That's where I really have to give credit where credit's due. Starship can carry so much cargo. It can carry so much into orbit, and it can put that around the moon. Just that fact alone, just making mass cheaper to go into space, you can really start building bigger things.
What is Starship?
Starship is the largest of SpaceX's craft. It's currently being developed for the purpose of transporting people to Mars.
Yeah, but it's
I thought it was the moon.
Yeah,
no,
Starship, Mars,
Starship
deep
will go
space.
to Mars. That's the purpose. If I walked in, because they had to do marketing for this thing. They had to publicize the event.
Yeah, they had to do PR and stuff.
I'm the business person, and I fucking look at what the engineers have on their fucking plans, and it looks like that shit. I would be like, that is a penis. We are not
You're
fucking
really-
publishing that shit. Like, no. What is that?
You
Like,
really mean to tell me that everyone was so scared of Jeff Bezos that they couldn't tell him his rocket looked like a dick?
he's
Come on.
just got to have 2 spherical fuel tanks at the base.
Bro, he could be Dr. Evil in Austin Powers. I think that would fly entirely over his head. You gotta be shitting me.
Oh, he wouldn't even notice. And then people would make fun of him for it on Twitter. And he would be like,
not get it.
He would be defensive about it instead of taking it for what it is, because it would be the fucking truth.
Yeah.
He would be like, no, it's definitely not like that at all.
I can't believe you guys thought about this, you know? What an asshole.
I think he's fucking like, he has to be like the most oblivious person on the planet with like how little he takes into consideration anybody else on the planet. Like, he's like, the Netherlands, you're going to take apart this bridge. Why? So that my new fucking yacht can get out of the port. Like,
thinks that's a good idea?
Nobody said beforehand we wouldn't be able to get it out of the port. Like, nobody talked to Jeff Bezos and was like, actually, Mr. Bezos, if we build it at this shipbuilder, it won't be able to get out. So let's just pick a different shipbuilder instead of destroying a historical bridge that the Dutch people
did they
care
end
about.
up doing that?
I think they are.
Or did they cancel it? I thought they canceled it. Wait, they actually
That's
did?
so stupid. Why would you let that happen? On both parts. First off, why didn't like the shipyard be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't build this here? Did no one really come
I know, like, if I was the shipyard, I would have just been like, I'm sorry, dude, but it's not gonna fit. So.
Like, maybe take your business somewhere else, buddy. Like, you can't really come through here with these specs,
I mean, like, we have another shipyard. Can you use that one? Does it have to be at this one?
Yeah, I got a cousin 3 blocks away with a better shipyard that you don't have to destroy a historic bridge for. You want to use that guy, maybe?
Yeah. Come on.
Did you know that Jeff Bezos has a yacht for his yacht?
Are you serious?
He has a
you're
mini
fucking
yacht
kidding,
that
right?
takes him.
Of course
So, like,
he does.
his yacht is so big that the side boat that's for smaller, like, he has a fleet. The man has a fleet, basically.
Don't they call them something like that, like dinghies or something? I don't know. There's some term for that. I'm not really
who
deep in the
cares?
maritime life. Yeah, who cares? They're rich people.
That's a rich people thing to know. See, the only thing I need to know is that one day I want to be able to park cars and have a helicopter on the yacht.
That would be nice. Yeah,
That's all I need to know, right?
that'd be pretty sick.
Like, because realistically, like, do I want to go to a port? Probably not. So I'll just have a helipad on my yacht, so that way they can fly me from my tower to my yacht.
Really, just got to live the GTA 5 life.
Yeah, you do. You gotta live that GTA life. I got used to it when I played that game, so now I need it.
Sometimes you just got to think, what would Kanye do today?
Yeah, exactly. What would the most irrational man on the planet do?
Oh my god. You're telling me that you just go from high rise to your yacht every day?
No, not every day, but like if I'm
Whenever
going
he
to the
feels
yacht,
like it.
then like then
He's got to go out to the yacht. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. I'm gonna
Going there,
I'm gonna get driven from my mansion. I'm gonna get driven to my tower, right? And then I'm gonna go up to the top floor of my tower in my private elevator that nobody else uses.
No.
That has like a chair to sit down in the elevator.
Mimosa service in the
Mimosa
elevator.
service, exactly.
Wow.
Champagne and caviar service in the
There's
elevator.
a lot of stuff in GTA 5 that you could do.
I don't know.
This
That's
is
a
not
GTA 5. That's
This
just
isn't
the
even
life
a
of Evan.
GTA 5. This is just in my mind.
That's just Evan living the
This
good
is
life.
purely all just out of my imagination, right? And so I get to the top of my tower of Satellite House Industries
King
Inc.
Evan.
And like I get in my gold-plated helicopter and I fly to my 3,000-foot-long yacht. And
That's King Evan right there.
I just land on this magnificent yacht that's just insane.
Take me to Florence. I want a sandwich.
I'm like, okay, you're gonna sail me to Fiji, and they're gonna be like, how long do you want it to take? And I'll be like, make it take like a month. I'm on vacation. And they'll be like, but you just got back from your other vacation. And I'll be like, I know, I did the 1 day of work. I got paid like $100 billion for it. Now, like, drive the fucking
Living
boat.
the good
Like,
life. Yeah, it'd be nice to be rich. Yeah.
I think it would be incredible. I love the idea of just thinking about what I would do if I had infinite money, right? Like, because realistically, even if Elon Musk spent his money the way that I can imagine how to spend money, he would be broke. Like, there's just no way that anybody...
You'd be living an unnecessary life at that point.
Yeah,
Way
it would
too
just
much.
be ungodly amounts of like obscene. Like, this is absolutely this sort of thing that, like, if Bernie Sanders saw it, he'd have a heart attack on the spot. Like, it would. It's like this is something ridiculous.
Just go crazy, you know?
Yeah,
Treat yourself.
treat yourself. You know, instead of renting a Rolls Royce, I'll just buy a Rolls Royce. Every
Why buy one when you can buy 5?
every day, just buy a new one. Throw it away the next day.
Disposable. Disposable Rolls Royces.
Single-use Rolls Royces. Sigmund
Yeah,
Freud.
Ivan, please tell us about Sigmund
He was
Freud.
a German psychologist who I believe
When did he live?
in like
The 1800s or something?
the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Whenever people really got into doing cocaine.
Oh, really? They did a lot of cocaine
This
back then?
man did a
was
lot
wild.
of
He was a wild
drugs.
guy, yeah.
And there's actually a museum about him in London, which is situated in his old house that he died in, I guess. I don't know.
Yikes.
But I have not been. When I lived in London, I did not go to the Sigmund Freud Museum, but I heard that it existed. It was kind of interesting. But he was a German psychologist who's considered the founder of modern psychology. A lot of the things that he thought about were really fucked up and like insane.
To put it bluntly.
Yeah, to put it really simply, he had some really disgusting fucking perverted ideas about the way that humans operated and thought. And pretty much everything that he came up with is now considered out of date and not accurate.
I don't know. You go on TikTok and you see some valid points there.
God.
This world is terrible.
Point is, not a very good guy. Okay, so the concept of penis envy is
explain.
that like women grow up wishing that they had a penis, so like they have to like compensate for this in like acting different ways. Like it's just some really weird, bizarre
It's
shit.
really out of pocket. Like, how the hell do you just come up with
Or
this?
like one of the things is like vagina dentata or something like that. Like this idea that like men are afraid of vaginas because they think that like it's gonna eat your penis or something like that. Like it's really these like obscene, ridiculous things that like Freud was like he came up with these fucking insane ideas.
Nuts.
Like he was absolutely out of his goddamn mind, right? So to say that like he had some good points, like it's like saying Hitler had good points. Like, no.
Wait,
no, he
what?
did not. Like,
Let
no,
me
he
search this
fucking
up.
didn't. Like,
I could have sworn I saw like a quote from him.
He's a weird guy.
he was a weird dude.
I mean, a lot of people said fancy shit back in the 1800s.
That's true. A lot of people did say some fancy sounding shit. I think it's wild.
Right here, look at this. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you the most beautiful. What about that?
Yeah, I'd probably just think they fucking suck.
I personally okay, how do you know that he actually said that? How do you know that somebody didn't just put those words on a background of an image with him? Like, how do you know that?
Yeah, truth is fake nowadays.
Like, I saw I saw a meme that was like Taylor Swift, but it had like all these
Wait.
Trump
Where
supporter
where did this
like,
hatred?
words all over
Where did this hatred from Sigmund Freud come from?
What do you mean? Like
Cocaine.
hatred for him? Like
Yeah,
why
your personal hatred for this person.
I don't hate him. I just think
he's
he was
just a
fucking
wacky
stupid.
fella.
Like he didn't know what he was
Just a little
talking about.
weird.
He's a quack. Like
Well, he will go down remembered forever in history.
that's
yeah,
correct.
damn.
He's gonna go down remembered forever in history as a really fucked up man.
What are you gonna do, Evan? Gonna compete against Sigmund Freud? Huh? I don't think so.
I don't know. I've never talked to people about this person before, so I'm just like,
how can you sit there and be like, oh, he's gonna be remembered forever? You know who else is gonna be remembered forever? Fucking
Hitler.
Stalin. Like, how are you gonna sit there and act like, oh, well, just because you're not gonna be remembered? They're like, okay, and.
Yeah, sometimes it's worth not being remembered.
I'm just curious, like, where did this stem from? You know, maybe
He's
like
just-
I
he's a
wasn't
fucking whack
born
job.
here, so like I don't know, like.
No, it's not like a Western person, like, it's not an American thing to hate Sigmund Freud. I just think he's a
It's
fucked
kind
up
of like
dude.
a human thing in general
I
that you
think
really
just
start to
think
read
he's
about him.
fucked up.
Oh, I've never read about him. I've only read like Wikipedia.
Give him a read.
Well, some of the things that he did, like a man would bring his wife to Sigmund Freud and be like, she's acting ridiculous. She's doing all these things that I don't like. And then like Sigmund Freud would be like, she's delirious. She's like, I'm trying to think of the word.
Hysterical?
Hysterical.
Hysterical.
Yeah. She's hysterical. And he would, it was like a medical diagnosis, Jason.
Yeah.
Like people,
They medically diagnosed women as hysterical,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Yeah, that works."
they'll be like, that's correct. She's sick. That's
What does hysterical mean?
Oh my god! You can't tell me that you don't know this.
Well, maybe he wants to
Like,
get into the deeper meaning.
What's like the? I think I know what it means, but I'm not sure.
It's kind of like when you're acting crazy, and especially back in that time, it was for when women were acting crazy because. I guess
it
like
was just any behavior that a man didn't approve of.
Yeah,
so
pretty
that
much.
he didn't have control over his wife was deemed hysterical.
Yeah, I don't know. It's got some sort of stem in like the Greek word for uterus or something like that. I don't know. That's where it like comes from.
Like
So
the
it's
etymology.
really it's really made to be like, you know,
To call a woman
subtweeting
crazy.
women,
That's
yeah.
basically what it's all about. And like, but they would do really weird shit to fix it.
nuts things.
Like they would do absolutely strange shit. Like he would straight up like go and be like fingering these women to like give them an orgasm to cure their hysteria. Like that. Like they would just do
Whoa,
some
how
fucking
bad
wild
does
shit.
it gotta be where
Like
that's
the
what you-
doctor?
Yeah.
Yes, the doctor. Like people would medically.
I mean,
they would take
that's
their
why they
wives to the
created
doctor.
vibrators. Vibrators started off as medical devices.
Yeah,
like,
that's correct. That's a true fact.
these doctors were fucking whack back in the day.
Like they were doing some crazy ass shit that today we would be like, no, this is totally unacceptable. We would be like, that's completely unethical. You cannot do anything like that. That's fucking wild. But they would just do it like if it was no big deal. That was
Again,
considered
at the
like
same time,
standard
those
medical
poor
practice,
women,
right?
Jesus.
For like a long time.
Yes,
Yeah,
for
for a good amount
decades.
of time.
I don't. Where do you
It's
learn
quite a
about
while.
this stuff? You don't learn about this stuff in 8th grade U.S. history.
I took,
Yeah, I wonder
so
why.
I took a psychology of the human sexuality course when I was in community college.
Whoa.
And that's where I
really?
learned a lot of this stuff.
I just like to read a lot.
You know what's always the worst though? When you go in a urinal and there's like somebody who takes their pants all the way down to pee.
Oh my god.
Like,
high school?
they got their like ass hanging out. Like you know that that's the weird guy. Like
Yeah.
you know like you see somebody who's strange and you're like, I bet that guy fucking pees with his ass out. Like
You know, it is always just kind of fun though to fuck with people when you're at the urinal or in the bathroom or something, especially if you know the person. I love doing that. I love messing around with people in awkward situations, you know? I get so much joy out of it. Over winter break, me and my roommates, we all went out to San Francisco for a bit, and we went out to Fisherman's Wharf, and we went to the Boudin Bakery. And there was this jank, disgusting bathroom right outside, and we all had to go take a piss, right? So I think I'm in there, Kobe's in there, Tomo just left, and I go in there, take a piss. Kobe goes into the urinal. He starts peeing in like one of the stalls, and he comes out. I turn around, and it's me, him. At the sink, and there's some random dude in the stall. I just turn to him and go, So you come here often?
Oh my god.
You know, out of context, you have no idea what the fuck you just stumbled into. It's so funny. I enjoy that so much. Just messing with people when they're least comfortable.
A few moments later.
But yeah, I don't know. I think like European schools probably don't treat their children like that.
I feel like the Europeans have education down right. Like they're doing it probably the best in the world right now.
I think they have probably the most humane way of raising children.
yeah,
I don't
believe
think
so,
it's
man.
not
Most
necessarily the
free-range children.
most successful. Right? I think China does the best job at making smart people. But like where would I rather live? I'd rather live in Finland than fucking China. You know, like
Yeah.
Ooh, they're joining NATO.
they are joining NATO.
Oh boy.
That's NATO to join NATO.
Hopefully the Swedes join too.
They won't.
Really?
They're considered a neutral country. They were neutral since
Yeah, I mean,
World War I.
I guess they don't have as much of a threat as the Finns do, but
Because the Finns share a
Finns are
really
right on the
long
border.
border
The Finns already
with
got invaded by the
Russia.
Russians at one point.
Yeah, they did, which is why they're they've always they have a deep seated hatred for the Russians.
They know a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two, so
Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
And they won
they did.
World War II. Alternate histories.
Now, what if Finland won World War II?
Ooh, what if the whole world was Finnish?
That would be
Everyone just spoke Finnish.
so. Everybody
Playing Clash of Clans.
everybody would stay really, really far away from each other, and they would all sit in their house and get drunk in their underwear.
Sounds fantastic to me.
And they would all
Seconded.
like drive in rallycross cars. And they would all like be
Are you just
severe
naming off
alcoholics.
stereotypes?
Yeah.
Finnish stereotypes. They all be playing Clash of Clans and Clash Royale.
Everybody has a Nokia phone.
Nokia. I don't know. I like Finnish people. I met one guy in Berkeley who's pretty interesting. His grandfather was like the prime minister of Finland.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, actually.
That's really
like his
fascinating.
grandfather has a Wikipedia page.
That's really cool.
That's pretty cool.
How do we get to Finland being neutral?
Start talking about little boys
European
making heavy
education
Are
baskets.
system.
they? Is Finland part of the European Space Agency?
I think so. I know they're part of the EU.
They're part of the EU.
That's a great question.
So what's the
I'm not
EU
sure.
versus NATO?
The EU is an economic and political union. NATO is a military alliance.
Yeah.
So the EU is all about trade. It's about economics. It's
Movement.
about monetary policy, freedom of movement for goods, people, capital.
It's like a regulatory agency to standardize.
It's like
Europe
NAFTA.
in a way. Yeah. It's like NAFTA, but more serious. Everything's more standardized. You can move more freely between them because the idea is these countries are so similar that they should be similar in policy too. So what they do is they put this superstructure of NATO, not of NATO, of the EU over like the basic structures of government in Europe, and they say you guys can have your independence, but then here's this too that you can use. So there's that for economics, trade, all that stuff.
It's really supposed to facilitate cooperation between European countries so that their economies are so reliant on each other that they never go to war again.
Yeah.
That is the original purpose of the European Union.
Yeah. And it's a counterbalance to like the US and Russia too.
Yeah, that too. It maintains European relevance on the international stage. Although that's a more modern usage of the European Union.
Do you think that the EU, all the countries in Europe that's in the EU right now, eventually just merges into one single country?
No.
In the future?
I don't think so, because I think that there are going to be certain countries that are going to be deeply opposed to being ruled from an outside source, even if they're part of it. I can see the French absolutely refusing to be ruled from Brussels or to be ruled from Berlin. But really, it would be Berlin, because Germany is the main country in Europe. And so I can imagine the French would detest the idea of being ruled from Berlin. I don't think they could do it.
Yeah, I could see a unified Europe happening, but it would not come about peacefully.
How does you, as an American, right? Why do you think Germany is like the main country in Europe and not France or another country?
They're the largest economy, first of all. They de facto take the leadership role in the European Union. They are the most relevant on the international stage. They have companies that matter more in the world than France does, right? Like, does France have a Siemens? No.
I think France has a Chanel and a Louis Vuitton.
Yeah,
right, but those things don't
those
matter
to the rich people.
Those
It doesn't
don't
matter
power
to your
the world,
average person.
right? Like, Germany makes things that everybody uses, things that countries rely on. Nobody relies for their economy to be based on Louis Vuitton bags and Chanel purses and like Hermes like scarves or whatever. Like nobody relies on the things that are produced in France to continue to exist. People rely on Germany to provide functional infrastructure for the world. Right? They're the place where telecommunications companies come from. They have automotive companies. They have chemical companies. They have engineering firms. They're
a very advanced country.
Yeah, they're very industrially
What's like a German brand
advanced.
that like your average brother in our fraternity is most influenced by, or feels the impact of? Is a better way to phrase it.
I don't know. It's really one of those things where it's in the small things that you don't really think about.
Yeah.
You know, sure, you can always talk about the big brands like Volkswagen and stuff like that, but there are smaller German companies that are affecting what we do every day.
I think BioNTech, COVID vaccine.
Yeah, I mean they're a relatively small company, but yeah, that's definitely a company.
They were
from
the ones
Germany
that like
they made the technology. Pfizer just kind of licensed this, like.
Pfizer's an American company.
Yes, which is weird because it sounds like it should be German.
Yeah.
But no, BioNTech is the German company. But I think even like to me, this is just my opinion. I think even the British are more relevant on the international stage than the French.
I would agree.
Just because of companies like Rolls-Royce, right? They make aircraft engines, not the cars.
Well, we still have the whole like Commonwealth and everything like
that too. But I meant more along the lines of like just Britain, right? Just as a country themselves, I think they matter more. They have companies like BAE Systems, HSBC, right? Like some of the largest financial companies in the world are centered in Britain, and France just truly cannot compete with that.
Yeah, France is really just a cultural place. Berlin, London, those are economic places.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Italy. Like, I'm sorry, does the world revolve around pasta? No, it does not. Like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Like,
it revolves around pizza though. I love
but we make the pizzas locally. We don't import them from Italy.
Yo, pizza margarita.
Like,
so good.
Those are pretty good.
I don't know. Like, do I love Italian wine? Absolutely. Do I love Italian sports cars? Of course. But nothing that's made in Italy is the primary economic driver of the world. And that's just it. Like, certain countries just have commodities that are more important. Like Taiwan is extremely important because of its semiconductor industry, the world's largest exporter.
Yeah, Japan and their electronics industry.
America and our space industry.
I think
our defense industry is pretty goddamn good, yeah.
Yeah, aerospace and defense is by far one of the most like useful things that America makes. Like, companies all around the world will buy a Boeing plane because it's supposed to be the best planes in the world.
Yeah, no, for something like defense, it's not hard to come up with a quote unquote $1 billion idea because you could just come up with a real expensive idea that's pretty easy. You know, it's not that hard.
That's actually really
Yeah.
true. Because the United States will throw
They'll throw
funding
so
at
much money at it.
anything.
Alberto, thank you for coming on the podcast.
It was great to be here, guys.
That's freaking great. We have
very
like
fun
2
to be
hours
here.
of content.
I think this has been a fantastic evening. I think this is really interesting to sit down and have a conversation with you. I think you're one of the most interesting people that I don't get to talk to very often.
You're one of the most interesting guys in the fraternity.
Thank you. Well, that means a lot. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I enjoy talking
Vice
to you
Archon.
guys too.
That's our Vice Archon. Any shout outs? Any last words? And yeah, where can we find you? Socials or anything?
Find me in San Jose. My socials are all over the place. Just look at the podcast Instagram. You'll find me there.
All right, guys.
Okay, like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Subscribe on Spotify. Like, comment, and share, and follow us on Instagram. Do whatever the bullshit is on TikTok. And come back next week. We'll see you then.
Peace out, guys.
Bye.
Sweet.